Super Mario. I mean, who doesn't love this adorable little Italian plumber that has been creating a marvelous fantasy world that children of all ages can play in since the 1980s. He's adorable. The world he's created is so cute and so fun. However, that doesn't mean that the Super Mario world has not included some occasionally scary and spooky sections in it, including the scary ghost houses in Super Mario World, and even an entire game, Luigi's Mansion, dedicated to scares and spooks and hunting down and busting some evil ghosts. And what's the way to make even more scary, spooky, horror-related Super Mario products? Well, the answer has come in the form of hacks. ROM hacks that people have taken the original game and changed them around to make them spooky and scary. One of the scariest ones is, of course, Virtual Boy Super Mario, where you can pretend for some reason that the great Super Mario games are set in the hideous and very, very blood-red Virtual Boy gaming system. And my God, it's just so scary. I mean, just look at this horrifying world.
However, that doesn't mean that the Super Mario world is not included some occasionally scary and spooky.
And you can even go from the literal redness of Virtual Boy Mario to the figurative redness of Communist Mario. I mean, what is scarier than living in a Stalinist dictatorship? I mean, it's nightmarish, it's evil, it's horrifying. Why wouldn't you want to mess around with good old-fashioned commie Mario? He does have a very Stalin-esque mustache, now that I think about it. The game naturally comes with a ponderously thick manual of rules that you have to follow in order to play. My favorite one happens to be the fact that if Mario collects any coins by hitting the blocks with his head, he instantly dies, because Communist Mario obviously can't collect any money. But there are, of course, a bunch of more Halloween, spooky, scary hacks for the Super Mario series, and I'm going to go over a few of them and what I think of them. One of the most fun of these is the Cemetery Bros, a game which converts most of the graphics for Super Mario Bros. 1 into spooky Halloween stuff. You're playing in graves, not levels anymore, and you star as a wonderfully adorable little ghost guy who grows big and turns orange when he gets a mushroom, or in rather a cross. You get to see all kinds of sprites changed into skeletons, devils, all kinds of monsters, and it's just a heck of a lot of fun to run around this place during Halloween. The story is about a young man who died suddenly and turned into a ghost, and he has to fight his way outside of a group of cemeteries, and there are all sorts of spooky creatures patrolling the cemeteries trying to stop him. And there's even a Cemetery Bros 2. In the second game in the series, Ghost has died, yet again, somehow, and he has to meet a bunch of friends, and with their help, escape from this strange Mushroom Kingdom cemetery place. And all of the characters like Luigi and Toad are changed into adorable little characters, including Princess Peach as a wonderful little devil girl, and she's just so cute. It's so fun to play this game. Unfortunately, these aren't really changes to the overall game, they're just graphics mods. Everything plays exactly as they do in the normal games. They've just changed how it looks. The aesthetics are different, and I think it provides a really cool Halloween atmosphere. Another ROM hack for Super Mario Bros. 1 is Hellish Journey, and as the game implies, everything in this has been changed to look like you are playing literally in the underworld of Hades. As you run around, everything is red, fire, and blood.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria!
And it's gone probably beyond spooky to just plain terrifying at this point. And it's not just the aesthetics that have been changed this time, it's not just a graphics hack, everything has been changed. The level design has been changed to be much harder, as you'd expect, in the pit of the underworld. It looks really, really cool, and it has the same devil monster playing Bowser as it did in the Cemetery Bros. Everything about this is pretty darn awesome, and maybe just a little bit too scary for Halloween, but I ended up really enjoying it, and I think it makes things very creepy if you want a Super Mario experience around October. A couple of potentially spooky ROM hacks for Super Mario Bros. 1 that I ended up being pretty disappointed with include a Rocky Horror themed one, which does change the font to look very Rocky Horror-like, which is pretty darn cool, but nothing else is really changed all that much. The tiles go from brown to pink, and the clouds are turned to red, which makes it look different, but doesn't really feel traditional Rocky horror. You're also playing as Eddie, and he doesn't look like Eddie at all. They didn't go to any lengths to make this guy look like Meatloaf. And for some reason, he's supposed to be looking for Janet Majors in each of the castles, trying to rescue her. Shouldn't he be rescuing his girlfriend Magenta or Columbia, whichever one she was? It doesn't really make a lot of sense, and not very much is actually changed. There aren't enough graphic hacks to make this one really fun. Although the Goombas have been turned into very white, phallic, things or something. Another one that I enjoyed a little bit better, but was still underwhelming, was an Alice Cooper hack. You actually do end up, at least when you're Big Mario, looking like the famous rock star. However, not very much is necessarily changed, and it's not changed in anything that looks all that cool, although you do get the words "I'm 18" written on all of the castles that you take over, which is pretty neat. And this woman singing here, for some reason, has replaced Bowser. Everything is still very much similar to the regular game, and it really just doesn't hit home quite in the way I thought it would. There are a ton of other graphics-only hacks for the original Super Mario Bros. Games, including a really, really creepy one that I saw for various games, including Super Mario Bros. 3 for the NES, called Carnage, where theoretically you're supposed to be playing, I think, as one of the Spider-Man characters, as the villain Carnage, but it doesn't look like that. Everything just looks like you're Inside Out Boy, and you have all of your horrible, twisted, bloody organs hanging around on the outside, and most of the monsters do too, and it's just sort of nauseating to play. I don't know why this exists. It's so weird. There are also a few amusing ones that don't really seem to be finished or only partially done sort of as a joke, like one in which it changes Mario's hair so you look like the main character of Eraserhead, and another one where you play as a surprisingly convincing looking Eric Draven from The Crow. There's also another one where you can play as two ninjas, which looks pretty darn neat. There's also a very, very weird one called Bloody Axe Bros, where Mario's sprite is replaced with a bloody axe. For some reason, I don't know why. It's just weird and uncomfortable. I don't know why someone would do that. One of the most peculiar ones I found was for Super Mario Bros. 2, and it was called Wicked Clowns, where you literally just play as an insane clown posse clown, a juggalo.
Magnets, how do they work?
Essentially, who's running around fighting other juggalos. It's very peculiar and pretty ridiculous. There's also one called Bloody Dagger Bros, which is a ROM hack that makes Mario look like he's gushing blood from various stab wounds? Or is it marinara sauce? I can't tell, because when you get the fire flower, it looks like you're draped in spaghetti, not blood. So it's just who would make this? Are they on a government watch list somewhere? Why would you do this? For the next game on the list, I have to admit to cheating a little bit, because it's not technically a ROM hack. You see, it's actually made with a system called Game Maker Studio, specifically the Hello Mario engine, which allows you to create very, very real-looking Super Mario World type games. And this game is essentially based on Super Mario World, and it asks the question, why, if Bowser has been shooting guns and cannons at us since literally the first game, Super Mario Bros. In the 80s, why has Mario never fought back in kind? It's a me, Captain Mario. Bowser troops are now armed with guns and are spilling blood everywhere. The people of the Mushroom Kingdom are no match for Bowser's army. It's up to me to take revenge on the deaths of so many. I will use their own weapons against them and spill some blood. Well, this one, Super Mario Bloody Battles, answers that question. It takes place on the sad, miserable, Acheron-like, red-skied, bloody battlefields of the Mushroom Kingdom. And it plays very similarly at first to Super Mario World, except for the fact that Mario can use guns. He can pick up revolvers, rocket launchers, grenades, which are sort of like throwing the bombs from Super Mario Bros. 2, and it's just a really, really fun experience to see the Mushroom Kingdom turned into the bloody war that we've always known it to be. I mean, let's face it, Mario has been killing things for decades now, just smashing and stamping on these horrible creatures with his big Italian boots.
You feel excited when you step on them and snuff out their lives.
Oh, are you talking about the monster? It only makes sense to show all of the blood splashing out of these creatures when we kill them. I mean, there's no more sanitizing the war that's going on here as the vile dictator, Bowser, tries to take over. The game mixes in a bunch of different enemies from various Mario games, of course including Shy Guy from Super Mario Bros. 2, one of the few enemies that just straight up shoots a gun at you. This, by the way, is a very, very hard game. Maybe not absolutely as brutal as some of the more extreme Super Mario hacks, but this one is really, really tough, and you're gonna die a heck of a lot. On the battlefields of the Mushroom Kingdom, it's as easy to stay alive as it was at Verdun or the Somme. You're gonna find yourself shot, blown up, killed by bats for some reason. These bats are really tough. The game is just really, really savage, but I guess, it makes sense because war is hell. Some of the controls are a little bit irritating. Just using the keyboard at all for a Mario game is a little bit off-putting, and you can't do certain things while carrying the gun. It's a little bit annoying and can lead to some unfortunate deaths early on before you get the hang of it. But overall, this was a really, really enjoyable game, and I really love running around here. The setting is really cool looking. The idea is amusing and comical, and it's a perfect way to turn Super Mario into the nightmare of war. This was a heck of a lot of fun, and it can be downloaded for free. Now, I know you may be asking yourself, what is the perfect addition to the Super Mario World universe? What is the proverbial peanut butter to the Super Mario chocolate that we can add to make everything so much better? And I think I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that it is obviously H.P. Lovecraft. Yes, the best ROM hack I'm going to mention on this list is, of course, Super Mario World Call of Cthulhu. And you'd be surprised how well the Cthulhu mythos mixes in to the Super Mario World. This is a hack for the Super Nintendo game Super Mario World, and it just looks beautiful. It's no mere graphics change, this is an entirely new game. You get to explore the dark, flooded labyrinth of the streets of R'lyeh, Cthulhu's city out in the Pacific Ocean, and all of the monsters have been turned into weird, Lovecraftian nightmares. Everything just looks incredible about this game. It feels amazing. And it actually includes a soundtrack that is made up of various spooky, scary songs from other Super Nintendo era games, and everything just fits in perfectly. It actually plays really, really good. I love getting through this game. It is not quite as tragically difficult as some of the other extremely hard ROM hacks are. Now, it's not an easy game. I mean, this is Cthulhu we're talking about here. It's pretty difficult, but it's entirely manageable. I also love all the little extra details they go through in this game, like including some of the famous dialogue from the Cthulhu games, like the strange aeons, even death may die, and then immediately after you see that, your character you think dies and goes to the game over screen, but then you realize your character is actually there below the you died screen, and you can move him and you have to jump out of this sort of unreality of death. You can't really die. The game actually uses some of the Lovecraftian style, like the evil, obscene nightmare geometry, in order to show levels with a weird geometric layout that you have to traverse. The game also showcases a lot of visual invention. All of the graphic changes to make this look like R'lyeh are incredible, and it actually has a kind of spooky vibe to it. I also love later on when they get into this cool black and white and shadow look to it, as you're crawling around as a shadow in the darkness. There's so much effort and thought put into this, it's fun just to look at it. Eventually later on in the game, you get to experience the full madness and horror of Cthulhu's lair, and you have to fight this incredible boss battle, and I don't want to spoil the ending, but it has a suitably Lovecraftian air of fatalism to it. It's absolutely incredible. This isn't a terribly long game, and it's probably not going to take you more than a few hours, but the fact that so much effort and time went into this, I would love to see a sequel for someone to do. It just, I don't know why, but somehow Super Mario World just works perfectly with Call of Cthulhu, and it's one of the best things to play around Halloween time. I highly recommend this. It's one of the most fun times I've ever had with any ROM hack. It's just funny and spooky and just really, really enjoyable. Although if you play it, some say that you'll eventually go mad, and that it'll be too much to take. Everyone who's ever played it, they say, has ended up in an insane asylum, clawing at their eyes at the things they've witnessed. But anyway, it's still a lot of fun, and I highly recommend it. So those are some of my favorite Super Mario spooky ROM hacks. I always love scary stuff and horror-related video games, and I love how people can take something that's not really a horror game and transform it to have a little bit more fun and be a little bit more festive around my favorite time of year, October. And some of these games were actually a lot of fun to play, especially Super Mario Call of Cthulhu, which I think is one of the best ROM hacks I've ever experienced. So I'm going to leave a link to a few more videos I've made surrounding horror or scary stuff for Halloween, so please check those out. And please like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. My name is Mike Snow, and have a very spooky Halloween. And now that I think about it, just have a really spooky, scary rest of the year, too.